Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 13th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. My name is Catherine Halpern, and I'm Chair of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham, and this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format, and I'll give you a few points on that in just a few moments. Please also note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. Also, I do need to ask if anyone is recording the meeting. You need to notify the chair. I'll give you a few seconds in case you're online and muted. I don't see any hands. So just a few points on our hybrid format. This meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted both in person and via remote participation in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams. I think there's a little echo. Can I ask that anyone who's connected remotely please mute your microphones? So I'll continue via Microsoft Teams or by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. That's 1-508-945-4410. And the conference ID number is 448-140-758#. That's 448-140-758#. Or as I mentioned, you can join the meeting via Microsoft Teams through the link in the agenda that's posted on the town website. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and as I mentioned, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Also, in accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. For tonight, we'll start with our regular business, and then we'll take a break at 6:15, and following the 15-minute break at 6:30, we'll have a public information and listening session regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the West Chatham Neighborhood Center and R20 districts. I'll give you for a few more points on that when we start the public information session. So let's start with a roll call. Art Spru, are you present?
Art Spru, present.
Warren Chain?
Warren Chain, present.
Bob Wirtschafter?
Bob Wirtschafter, present.
Megan Story?
Megan Story, present.
And Bob Dubus?
Bob Dubus, present.
And this is Catherine Halpern. I'm also present, and also with us is Ryan Christenberry, our principal planner. So first item on our regular business agenda is the minutes from January 23rd. Any changes, additions, corrections to the minutes? There being none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I move to approve the minutes.
May I have a second?
It's Warren Chain, I second the motion.
Let's have a vote. Art Spru?
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain?
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Wirtschafter?
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Megan Story?
I'm going to abstain as I wasn't there.
That's right. I'm sorry. My mistake. Thank you. And Bob Dubus?
Abstain.
Yes, thank you very much for the reminder. This is Catherine Halpern. I also approve the minutes. Next item on our agenda is a change of use, a formal site plan review for change of use. This is for 782 Main Street. We did do a formal site plan review for some reconstruction of the rear building, not in the not too distant past. Now they're proposing a change of use in the building in the front for 782. And I have someone presenting for this matter. Is it Ms. Cole? Mrs. Cole? Yes. Please step up to the mic up at the podium and please introduce yourselves.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Hunt.
Hello, I'm Katie Cole.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Did you want to present your proposal, proposed change of use for the, I understand it's for the first floor of the building on Route 28, which is 782. Is that correct?
Yes,
From
that's
correct,
office to retail.
Yes.
exactly.
Yep.
So if you just tell us a little bit about it, what type of retail will it be, and what is the square footage, and so on?
Okay, so we are looking to open a women's clothing store.
Great.
Currently, or we're looking to reduce the square footage that's customer facing to 550 square feet. So that's a reduction from the existing usage. And is there anything else specifically you wanted us to address?
No, I'll just mention, as Ryan pointed out in her staff report, that that does decrease the amount of parking that's required for the two buildings. When the board approved the site plan previously, we looked at the whole complex of 782 and 784, and we looked at the parking and also the ingress and egress of traffic for both buildings. I understand this usage will decrease the number of parking spaces. I do want to ask you, and I think the board will also want to know, how are your deliveries of merchandise coming in? Because that's one thing that wasn't so much of an issue with the previous use. And also, the board may wish to consider if we want to designate parking spaces for your retail customers. So let us know about your deliveries. How do you anticipate they come in, or do you know yet?
Yeah, well, so the deliveries will probably be FedEx or UPS. The
All right.
nature of retail is you buy sort of in advance, and then it's delivered sort of on a monthly basis according to pretty much 6 months prior to when you actually select. So it's, there shouldn't be large, 18-wheelers pulling into the parking lot, rather
Okay.
just a typical delivery. And, we've selected merchandise from a fair amount of different designers, and so the packaging also won't be large. They
Right.
should be sort of more smaller, maybe perhaps more frequent, but no different than, again, a regular FedEx or UPS delivery.
All right, good. That helps to explain. Great. Why don't we see if the board has questions or comments? Art Spru?
Yes, and Ryan, maybe you can help clarify this for me, because when I first read this, I thought it was just swapping out space. You say that the previous approval was for a little over 1,000 square feet. Are you saying that there's no longer going to be 1,000 square feet of use in this, and it's only the 550? Is that what your understanding is too?
My understanding, the previous approval looked at the entire site, but because there are two buildings, the focus of, I'm on, aren't I? I am. I'm not close enough. So the previous approval was focused on the rear building, but you looked at the entire site.
Right.
Did. We had-
Right?
yes.
So the usage in the front building wasn't considered at that time. But what's proposed here is a reduction in that existing 1,000 square foot of office to the approximately 500 square foot of retail.
Well, I have to go back through my notes, but I know when we were going through the parking calculations, we had to take into account everything in both buildings.
Yes.
So I guess I'll put it to you as the proponent, applicant on this. Are you occupying the entire lower level of the building and only using 550 square feet for retail?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest of the store.
That helps clarify my questions, and I don't have any issues with this. I hope they keep all the parking spaces, though. They'll need them.
Yes, you will.
I hope so, with new clients.
Yeah. Warren, do you have questions or comments?
I don't have any questions now. I may before we finish, but I don't think so. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Bob?
Yeah, I guess the questions I have relate to the occupants, the residential occupants, both in the back, and isn't there an upstairs tenant as well?
There is one tenant upstairs, a single tenant.
So are they competing for those spaces with?
No,
Do they have their own designated spaces already?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
all I have.
Yeah. Yes, and that was, as I recall, that was a concern of the board when we previously reviewed the site plan for the construction of the new building in the back, that we wanted the residents to have designated parking
Yeah,
spaces.
well, I mean, it was different when it was an employee who was coming every day and knew where to park.
Right.
It's different when they're retail people
customers.
pulling in and they
Yeah.
just will park anywhere. So I think that the designation has to be even clearer than maybe it was in my mind before, because now you don't have regular people who are coming each day.
Yeah. So in other words, designated parking places for the residents.
Yes.
Yeah, in both the front building and the back building, yeah. Megan?
My first question would just have to do with the hours. So do you know the hours, or you have like potential hours that you might be open
We actually haven't discussed that, but I would imagine 10 to 6.
on that end of
Correct.
Main Street?
Yeah, we're
Probably
not going to be
right?
after like
Okay.
dinner time.
So then my only,
There might be a special,
Yeah,
like
no, I just mean like-
pop-up, whatever, but no, traditionally.
I certainly wouldn't pigeonhole into these hours. I'm
Yep.
just thinking that if you're primarily going to be open during the day,
Yep.
and having been on the zoning board when it went before the zoning board, I know that they did not actually get as many apartments as you guys had approved either.
Okay.
If I'm not
Correct, that's
incorrect?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I don't see parking is going to be a problem.
Great, okay, that's good to know, thank you,
Yeah, I think
Megan.
they're probably in a very good position.
Yes, great. Mr. Dubus?
I've got a couple, I have this drawing right here.
That's correct, yeah.
Now, where's Main Street? Here? Here?
Yes, to
Yes.
the right,
Where
Okay,
the
so-
circle, where your
So
circles
it's
are.
going to be like
Yep.
that.
yes.
Yep.
Okay. Are they going to be in the front door to walk in or the side door?
The front door,
Okay, so they're going to have to park and walk all the way around?
correct.
There's no back door?
No, there's no back entrance to the store.
Okay, and is the parking on the side towards the pizza or is it in the back?
I guess we will use both.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking so I kind of get a perspective of
Yeah.
it. Because between those two, see, it's a little hard to
Right.
figure out where it is. Now, what are those deck piers, the circles on the end? I didn't grasp that. All right, do you know what those are? Megan, you know what they are?
I believe.
No, but I think Mr. Cole probably knows what they are, so if he wants to try it.
Oh,
You might be muted. Yeah,
Those are just measurements overlaid on the drawing. They don't represent any part of the building.
oh, okay, they look good. All right, now, my biggest concern is you're only selling women's clothing?
To start, to start.
You know, when I go into a men's store, usually they have some women's sections, so I'm kind of taking offense on that I mean,
You
Really?
must know Tim Hunt, my husband, because he said the exact same thing.
okay, all right. No, I think, I wish you good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
good.
We are going to consider that.
Eventually.
We're sort of
Yeah,
figuring
We're
out.
keeping it simple to start.
This isn't totally required, but I'm just interested, do you plan on being seasonal, or do you plan on being a year-round store?
It's sort of a hybrid.
Hybrid, yeah.
Yep. I
Okay.
think that we anticipate May through December and maybe closing January.
The winter months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
But,
makes
and
sense.
if it dictate otherwise, if
Right.
it ends up being otherwise, then obviously we would love to stay open year-round, but, just trying to do what makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great, great. I don't have any further questions. Yes,
Yeah, I think, I was thinking you were going here, Bob, but how do you get from the back parking lot
I
to the
know,
front door
I know.
without walking down the middle of that alleyway or walking through the other alleyway between the?
That's why I wondered if the parking on the side, there's a sidewalk there, they walk now, so.
There's a sidewalk there.
Correct.
Oh, I don't see.
And currently, the employees do the same route. They don't come in from the back way.
Yeah, but they're doing, yeah, again, they know what they're doing, and they know the traffic that's pouring in on the right-hand side of that building where people are coming in, and they can't really see. I mean, we had issues with circulation on how the circulation would work in that property, so I just want to make sure there is a sidewalk.
There is sidewalk, concrete sidewalk with granite curbing. Oh, wait a minute, that's in the back, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's for the back.
No, there is a sidewalk that goes around, but,
There is.
There's a sidewalk on the east side.
Okay,
On the east side.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna work out. Let's,
Yeah, because I believe the back door is for the resident. Yeah.
That's correct.
So you don't, that person certainly doesn't want people going in there.
but there is an alternate fire escape, I hope. Other than the front door.
That's a good question. You have that question?
Mr. Cole?
Not for us to decide.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, great. Great. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the change of use as proposed. The conditions would just be our standard conditions. We could add the condition, though it may have been on the, I didn't see it on the initial statement of conditions, so we could add the condition that the parking spaces for the residents are clearly marked, and parking spaces for the retail customers are
Madam
marked.
Chairman,
Yes,
we can only deal with the front building, not the back building, so
yeah, in
that's
this,
not our purview, because they have no interest in that. They're only interested in the front building square.
yes. So can we designate parking spaces for the retail customers, and does the board feel that's necessary? Yeah,
I mean, having been over there, because, again, and having been part of this and the zoning conversation.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if it's prohibitive for them, but it just doesn't seem necessary, because at this point, they've dramatically reduced the number of people that are living
Okay.
there.
okay, great. If the board's in agreement with that, then I would just ask for a motion to approve the change of use as proposed with our standard conditions.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second to that motion?
Art Sprue, I'll second.
All right, let's do a vote. Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Wertschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve.
Mrs. Catherine Halpern, I also approve. Thank you.
Thank you very
And best
much.
of
So
luck
much.
to you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a pre-application conference, and this is for a site plan amendment to allow seasonal outdoor dining. This is for 487, 489 Main Street, the Chatham Squire. And we have seen this matter come before us before, also as a pre-application conference. And what the proposal is there was temporary outdoor seating allowed, approved in 2020 under the temporary outdoor dining regulations. And the Chatham Squire is now seeking to make that permanent, to make the outdoor seating permanent. And you've been given quite a few materials. I'm wondering, do I have someone to present for this matter? Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, and members of the board. Joe Fournier with JFF Design Architects. Thank you for the opportunity to present this remotely before you. So if I can share my screen, just get that going. Great. So our client, the owner team, saw the benefit of having this outdoor seating during the world shutdown, and they're seeking now to make it a more permanent, or to make it a permanent fixture. I'm sure everybody is well aware of the Squire. It's a Chatham landmark for sure. So I think we can continue to offer good service to the patrons if we're allowed to make this more permanent. So one of the things that we wanted to note first off is we, in looking at our current pavement, this is our concrete patio, and this is where everybody has seen over the last couple of years. They had the picnic tables out here and a temporary fence and some other items. So we're looking to clean that up and really beautify that whole back alley section as part of this proposal. The one point I'd like to note, though, is as responded to in our application, that this was to be built over the parking area. It actually, it's not. Our parking area is listed out here in our existing conditions survey. And this concrete patio that you see here to the left, we took the liberty of overlaying that on our drawing, and you folks actually received this as an updated architectural site plan earlier today. And we're showing the impact of what our proposed project will do. So this is the paved area that exists. We're looking to only add on to our concrete patio here, cutting the section of concrete around here, patching it with asphalt, cutting the asphalt away from here, and then making this a concrete patio. And it's our intention to take the existing concrete patio, clean it up, repair the areas that need to be repaired, replace those which need to be replaced, and introduce a nice green buffer between our asphaltic jungle out here, if you will, and then back into our nicer concrete patio section as part of our proposal. So with that, this represents the revised, pardon me, the revised package that we sent to you after we took a look at our parking arrangement. In working with Mr. Briggs, we changed our accessible routing, or I should say our accessible parking and van load to make this a little easier to navigate in and out of the alleyway. We originally thought a parallel park space would work better, but in looking back at this, we created a wider accessible van spot and then used the narrower loading area, thinking that the wider parking would be better served in this. We all know how busily traveled this alleyway is for the public parking over here. So we thought to give as much negotiation to that space. And the same thing happens with these other spaces here in and around our the alleyway, the access to Main Street. So with we can stay on accessibility for a little bit longer. We're seeking to improve the experience, not only of the back patio space, but also a nicer entry, given the fact that the back entry of the tavern is our accessible entry. As you all know, we have the steps along Main Street. It really doesn't serve very, very well for accessible entry. So we thought that we would improve this quite a bit. So we've widened our access in and out of the space. We've created a nice accessible route, not only into our accessible space, but also into the parking lot, making it easy for patrons to come in and out, given the fact that this is a major egress for the building as well. So jumping to our architectural site plan, blown up version, so you can see we still have our 11 parking spaces, and the 12th one is the accessible space. We took advantage of our proposed reallocation of spaces, if you will, to include an enclosed dumpster area, which we think that this would be a very welcome site, or non-site, if you will, to the public parking area. We're able to contain our 2 dumpsters within this enclosure, but also our recycling refuse barrels as well. And these gates are sliding gates for access. So it's intended to be a really clean atmosphere as best possible. And we've extended this greenery through the end of our parking lot. So again, trying to really improve that whole back alleyway area. So our proposal is to create a seating area around a fire pit, a host station here to basically corral, if you will, the public into not only this outdoor area, but also guide them into the restaurant if that's their final destination. One of the things that we looked at doing is we're maintaining our occupancy through the building between the restaurant and the tavern. So we're doing a shared occupancy for the moment. We're limiting the outdoor seating to 50. But if there are more, we're taking more out of the dining room or the tavern, whether it be closing down the back bar to limit patrons in this area to prevent an overflow, there are areas within the restaurant that we can equally close off. And that will all be managed by the management staff, whether it be a restaurant manager that's on duty or host or hostess station. So here again, the arrangement of tables, as everybody knows, we likely will be, we want to serve alcohol out there, so we're going to require some seating by mass law. So we've provided high top areas, some tables and chairs here, and then we've created this drink rail that allows for seating and dining here along the exterior wall. This proposal enables us to clean up this whole area. As you're probably aware, this is used for back of house restaurant storage, refuse. So we really want to clean this up because, as I said before, this is a major entry into the establishment. So we want to clean that up, certainly for our patrons. So we're creating a service window between the back bar and the outdoor dining area. And that is going to be a sliding type window. And we're going to a point inside and out. When this window is not open, we're going to be closing that off with matching materials. So it's almost as if the window doesn't exist. We want to do that to maintain the historical nature of the space, both inside and outside. I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with this. So we have a large enclosure in the back, and I have photos as well to show, which are in your packet. We're cleaning all of that up and out. There are a couple of utility pieces that we need to maintain, so we're putting a smaller version of our fence enclosure here. So that will all match in with everything that we have that we're proposing as a solid enclosure around our outdoor dining space. So we have a combination of solid and then open fencing. We want to be able to attract individuals into the space and have that vibrancy continue through. So this area is our see-through, if you will. It's a crisscross lattice type fencing that you also see in your packets. We're enhancing our entry. We're creating this portal with an awning element above. It's actually more of a gateway above here, and we're fully enclosing our existing generator. And then this is our delivery gate. So we're completely separating the patron space from our back of house deliveries. This will give you a better understanding as to how we propose this to work. So the delivery vehicles will back into the alley space here, into the aisle, unload, come into and basically unload everything inside the building as they currently use. Our kitchen staff frequently come across the patio space to get supplies out of the various freezers and commissary storage. So we thought to enclose this, but we also thought to make this experience a little bit better. Currently, the way this door is arranged, it's an outswing door, which is very typical, but it actually has a step immediately as you walk out that door. So it does present a safety issue for us. So we thought to take advantage of our project and then create a landing and stairs, make it a little safer for the kitchen personnel to access the storage. In that same, in that same light, when you come out of the back bar, anyone familiar, we actually have a step down again right at this door, this outswing door, that does present us a safety issue as well, because this actually goes directly onto stairs. So here again, taking advantage of our proposed project, we're creating a nice large landing and stairs, makes for better navigation and certainly safer navigation in and out of this space. As you can see, we've allowed for accessible seating at all areas of the venue. One of the benefits of having this loose seating, it's very dynamic, so we can switch it up a bit, but as you can see, we're very accommodating when it comes to that. As we move through, always better in color, I suspect. So this is what we propose our project to look like. As you can see, it's a combination of solid fencing where appropriate, and then open fencing also where appropriate. So promoting a strong circulation into the space. So again, we really want to enhance this new entry. I call it new only for the fact that it's going to be not newly arranged, but updated for sure, as well as the one coming off the alleyway. And here again, it's just an example of small greenery, but at least something to kind of soften that edge between our parking space and the patio beyond. Let me switch to, I know you're all familiar with the photos. So this is what we seek to improve and clean up. You have these makeshift storage areas that really devalue this walkway, quite frankly. And we're looking to keep everything in context with the existing structure, trying to maintain as much of the historical nature as possible. So wherever patching is concerned or needed, we're going to be using the cedar shingles. I suspect that a great amount of this wall will be reshingled, which will improve some of the deteriorated conditions. As you can see, it's really in bad need. And this is something that the ownership team really is focusing on. They really want to improve this space. This is the egress out of the back bar. As you can see, this is a very unsafe condition. So we seek to update that and bring that up to code and make it safer for patrons. So this is the open fence type. We're using this cross-hatched lattice cedar, all cedar fencing we're proposing. And this would be an example of the solid fence where we still want to have an openness. Again, this is around the patio area. It will be full height around the dumpster area for obvious reasons. So this is what we propose for that mix between the solid and open fencing. This is a very simple sliding window that we're proposing for our service bar. And we like to try to maintain some of the nautical theme that's back there, and then creating these brass lights that will light the walkway areas, the seating around the fire pit, the area of the railing, this drink rail. These will have recessed lights that are up underneath the awning cover that we're creating here. We also thought to take in that post and beam that's very rampant throughout the entire restaurant and tavern, tap into that, bring that outside. So we're doing simple post and beam type bracketed supports. So here again, carrying that theme directly into the outside patio, so this feels like a synthesized space. So I think that's pretty much all I have for you for presentation. If you want, I can leave these up while we walk through.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to check a couple of points with you, and then we'll have board members also ask questions and comments. So you're saying 50 outdoor seats, and in the staff report, it mentions that the sewer system is approved for a total of 307 seats. I guess I had a little trouble seeing on what you submitted and in your talk, can you show us exactly where are the 50 outdoor seats, and what is your number of indoor seats? What's the total number of seats that you are planning on?
Sure. So what we're approved for is we have 120 occupants in the dining area.
Indoor?
Indoor, correct. And we have a total of 112 in the tavern. So I'm not sure. I did read that in staff report. I'm not certain of the 307. These numbers were provided to me by the ownership team. So our proposal is to limit when we had our town meeting, I should say, our town discussion with the various departments, one question had come up regarding occupancy, rightly so. And we came up, rather than seeking an increase in what we thought to be our occupancy levels, so we thought at this point to go with a shared experience. So if you will, it's probably a misnomer. We're not looking to do 50 seats necessarily, but we're looking for 50 occupants. As you can see, this is going to be a very fluid dynamic space here. So we're anticipating that there's going to be some standing about space as well, but we do have fixed seating, dynamic seating here. One could argue we have fixed seating here, but these seats are obviously not stools, or I should say they're not permanent stools. So these will be dynamic as well. So there's a combination. But we thought with respect to circulation, safety, crowdedness, we wanted to limit this to 50 in here, and we would tap into our occupancies in here.
Okay, when you're saying here and here, it's a little hard to see the pointer on what we're seeing on the screen. So
Okay,
that's so let me just, so what I'm hearing you say now, you have 232 seats or 232 occupants inside and 50 outside. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And you have, the sewer system is approved for 307. So essentially, right now, you're looking for an increase in the outdoor seating from 232 to 282.
We are actually not. And I
All right.
apologize for interrupting. So we're not going for an increase in occupancy at all at this point.
So why don't you explain that clearly to the board? Yeah. Why
With
there's no
respect to-
why is there no increase?
Because in my presentation, I was suggesting that should the numbers be start to reach capacity, management is going to shut down areas of either the tavern or the dining room to limit the numbers of people here, and then this area is going to take that it's not really a surplus, to take that occupancy that ordinarily would be here. And I'm sorry, this is the back bar. Can you see the hand okay?
No, please remember, whenever you say here, we don't know where you're pointing because we can't
No,
see the
that's good.
hand. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries, but you can see my shared screen, yes? Yes. So there's a white arrow right here in the,
We do see the white arrow right now, but
okay.
yeah.
The back
All
bar.
right, so I'll go slower. I think it sometimes takes a little while to
I think
have that
white
show
on
up.
white
So
is
I'm-
your issue. You have a white arrow and a white page.
That's probably very true. I didn't create the program though, so unless somebody knows how to turn the hand black. So at the bottom of the screen, I've switched this to the hand. I find it is a little easier to see, perhaps not. Can everybody see this though? Yeah. Board?
No, I can't see it. Oh, there, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's-
So
yes.
this area here is the back bar. Okay? And as many of you, let's just see, I'm gonna do it this way. How's that? A little better? You
Can
see
you
the red square?
highlight that so it's still not really easily visible? Can you make the
do
lines
apologize.
bold and color?
Yep.
Sorry, it's, there, that's
No,
better,
please don't
that's better.
apologize.
That's
Wait
better.
1 second.
Better,
There you go.
there you go.
So I'll just use this square to highlight various areas.
Great.
So again, I greatly appreciate being able to do this remotely, so please don't apologize. It's technology getting better as our need is. So this is our back bar. So the idea is, that, and if any of you have come in on different occasions, you'll notice that the slide door that's here will sometimes be shut, so this back bar is closed off. So we're utilizing that as an advantage, if you will, to control the environment of whether we do seating out here or seating in here. So, for example, if the area that we're proposing to make permanent is occupied, we're going to take that occupancy load out of either the back bar or areas inside the dining room that we can easily close off to other patrons. It's not to say that at some point down the road, the ownership team would not go for an increase of occupancy. I suspect that the difference in numbers also has to do with the back of house staff, whether it be the kitchen staff, the wait staff, management. So when we start dealing with occupancies, not just on the health department side, but also on the building code side, we'd like to account for everyone, if you will. As you know, there's quite a large kitchen area, there's quite a large staff. So we want to be able to account for those individuals as well on all of our levels, whether it be life safety or whether it wants to be considered in health department levels, sanitary facilities and sort. So we thought that this was an easy approach to propose to make this outdoor area permanent as a nice fixture to our establishment here. All the while not overtaxing the occupancy of the entire facility. At some point, I think if this has vibrancy, I'm certain that the ownership team will look to either adjust the occupancy numbers. I understand that we are on town sewer, so a lot of the ordinary controls that we have over occupancy with regard to health aren't necessarily there. One of the elements that we need to look at if we look to increase occupancy is we'll want to look at our life safety loads. For example, we would take our exits, which we have one here. We also have two here, one in this area, one in this area. So we want to make sure that we can accommodate all of those people that we're talking about, and we're not in a position to propose that just yet. What we would like to do is to expand the vibrancy that we've experienced here during our shutdown times, if you will, with the outdoor dining experience, and that will be something that'll be greatly appreciated by the public in what we're trying to do, certainly by the ownership team, but also by our public. And I'm sorry, I was working off our old plan, so I'll come back to it. This is the revised plan with the revised parking space.
Okay.
So I hope that answered the question that you had.
Thank you. To some degree, however, maybe I should just take some comments and questions from the board. I think the board may need to look at it, that you are expanding from 232 occupancy to 282. There is some expansion. You are approved for sewer, I'm noting in the staff report, for 307 seats, so that's not so much of an issue, but we are concerned about the parking. We're concerned about the flow of pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So this site, as I understand it, probably was in place before we even had zoning in Chatham. It's not clear, we don't have historical files on previous site plan approvals. Obviously, the parking has been accommodated by using some public parking and cross parking on other facilities. Nevertheless, it's already a very intense usage on this site, and so the board has to carefully consider adding some intensity to that usage. So let's just go through the board. Art Sprue, would you like to start with comments and questions?
Okay. So there, There were some things I recall from the last meeting, and there's some new things that I've observed on this. I might also start with the big one. You're offering 12 parking spaces for something that should be in the neighborhood of 80. How are you going to accommodate that? I think your parking calculation should be part of your formal submission associated with this, and how are you planning on accommodating that? And if you take a look at our bylaws associated with site plan reviews, it doesn't allow you to use off-site parking as a contingency for an expansion like this. So I think that could be a game changer for you associated with this. Of the spaces that you're proposing there, when I took a look at the seating that you have.
Art, this is Bill Riley. And I'm representing the Pace Group as well. And on the bylaw, we're not proposing an increase. We're proposing the ability to be flexible, have outdoor service as well as indoor service. And as Joe indicated, we're gonna when we reach capacity, we're gonna shut down indoor spaces if we're using the outdoor spaces.
Right.
And as you know, our parking is grandfathered. And so until we seek an increase in occupancy, I believe we're really all set on the parking bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Let's continue with Art's questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I always take a look, just for the board's information, and I think there's a new member here. I take a look at the information that's in the supplemental regulations in the protective zoning bylaw, and it says, except that otherwise provided herein, no use shall be established, erected, or enlarged, or changed except in conformity with a site plan approval. And then we have another dozen pages of site plan conditions associated with that about what we want. We revisit everything, and in this case, we need to revisit everything because things have changed in 40, 50 years. Yeah.
So essentially, we're revisiting it because there is an increase in use.
Yep.
Based on new space, regardless of whether or not they say they're gonna mediate.
Yes.
Okay.
It's been our practice as a board
we're
that,
not increasing the
excuse me, Mr. Riley, the chair is
No, we're
speaking.
not increasing the
Mr. Riley, please. So it's been our practice that whenever something comes before us, we review everything as though it were a new application.
Makes perfect
Yeah.
sense to me,
All right.
and I'll stop there. but-
Okay, so go ahead, Art.
So when I did take a look at your plan, I noticed that there's over 300 seats shown on there, including the outdoor space. I don't know how you go about managing this, so it's only down to 282, 232 or whatnot. If you got the chairs there and you got people hanging out there, I don't know how you stop anybody from wanting to sit down or whatnot. That's not a good criteria. I think the basis of what we do is we take a look at the number of seats, and if the number of seats are there, they need to have parking accommodations. So swapping places back and forth, to me, doesn't work. So that wouldn't be something that would be acceptable to me. So just going, again, I'm going down a list of things that I think we would look at in a formal application. I went out there and took a look at the site. There's 16,000 square feet. Almost the entire thing is impervious. There's 10 downspouts from the building that go to the surface. There is no stormwater management at all on the whole site. Everything has to be revisited from a stormwater management standpoint. We have incorporated stormwater management criteria in the site plan review nowadays, and that needs to be revisited for this particular site. In particular, since there isn't a single structure of stormwater on the entire site. So something has to be managed and looked at on this, including the building. 16,000 square feet impervious area is a significant area with no stormwater management. The next thing I saw is you have no existing conditions on utilities in the site plan. There's underground utilities there. If you're doing something, it's important for us to understand where you're building this over top of existing utilities, which appears like there are some. So the entire site plan needs to be verified and should be signed and sealed by either a land surveyor or civil engineer associated with this particular application. Landscaping. The site plan calls for GB1 having a 10% landscape green space coverage. I think you're only about 1%, 1.2%. I think there needs to be a better accommodation on the landscaping, so that needs to be visited associated with this. The lighting that you have on the existing building right now, there's at least 6 wall packs that are out there that are just shining broadcastly all over the place. Everything needs to be revisited from the standpoint, I think, for outdoor dining, for safety, for pedestrians that are trying to get to and from. All of lighting should be out, a cutoff design and safe. So there needs to be a full lighting plan associated with this so that we see what you're lighting and how you're doing it. The light fixtures that you showed us there, even though they look nice, I agree, but they're not a cutoff design. There's other light fixtures that you could use to deal with that issue. You do talk about a loading zone, but I'll tell you something. I don't know, when I was looking at your area there, I don't know how you get something from that loading area through the rest of your building into your kitchen. So to me, you go down to do that?
They store in the basement a lot.
Okay, so I misspoke, but again, the building is over 5,000 square feet, so it needs a dedicated loading area. So if you provide that, that would be fine. I just want to make sure that it's a valid related point to access the building. Parking spaces number 5 and 9 are pretty much dead end, and it's hard for them to actually get out. They would have to back entirely out if they were there. If it was a large SUV type vehicle with a 20-foot aisle width, that's going to be challenging. We usually don't like to see dead end parking like that without backup where you can actually a T turnaround or something like that. So those are problematic parking spaces right now. Certainly if you had some small vehicles that could maneuver around there, they certainly can, but I don't see any restrictions associated with what you're doing in there. I think and I think the other thing that was mentioned in here would be pest control. When you have an outdoor dining area like this, I think you have the type of offerings that you're doing here. I think pest control is going to probably be a very important item to manage. I know you're trying to do that with your dumpster locations and everything in there, but management of that is going to be something that would be important, especially with outdoor dining. I think that that's something that you're going to have to offer up how that's going to be presented and managed and maintained so that it doesn't draw rodents or anything else there from a health and safety standpoint. So those are just some of the things that I picked up when I was doing a review on this so that you could attend to that. I still think you have to deal with the parking and stormwater management, which are critical items in my list of things. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Arthur. Warren
Madam Chair,
Chain.
excuse me, Madam Chair. Before we go to another board member, could I answer some of the questions that this gentleman brings up to us, please? Because I think I presented them well in my preamble, but I'd like to, just so they're fresh in everyone's mind, I'd like to at least address them point by point, if I may.
Why don't let's go through all the board members first, and then if you could answer after all the board members present their questions. I think it might be, in this particular case, I think it would be better to do it that way. So Warren Chain.
And if you could kindly just give me the last names of the individuals that are speaking as well.
Yes, that was Art Spru.
I'm sorry, Spru?
Spru, S-P-R-U-C-H. Mr. Spru.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, this is
Mr.
Warren.
Chain,
I'd like to reiterate that I don't think the whole idea of closing down and opening up different parts of the facility makes any sense at all. It's totally infeasible. And that the total number of seats would be that, let me start over. I think that all review of this proposal ought to assume every seat is filled all the time. And the parking consequences would be what they are, sewage flow, et cetera, would all assume full occupancy at all times. Otherwise, you just know every seat is going to be filled in the summertime. We've had other situations in other places. So saying that, I think the parking is a real issue. Parking is an issue everywhere, but to all of a sudden take an extraordinarily dense parking situation and decide to throw another 50 or so, who knows how many more cars in there in order to fill up the Squire seems to be a real challenge. I'll just say that without anything else. I wanted to, I really wanted to inquire as to, how do you get all the garbage and the trash from the facility out to the dumpsters? It's not intuitively obvious to me how you do that without wandering through your beautiful new outdoor eating space. Maybe you can go in the basement and out the door and then out the loading dock and then down the alley. I'm not sure, but it does seem to me that that's likely to be a challenge. And I would ask only that somebody try and address that. The pictures, and of course, anyone who's been down there knows that there is currently, I'll call it a significant amount of storage outdoors that is under the eave of the roof on the way in through that back alleyway. All of that stuff has to go somewhere. It's not intuitively obvious to me that there is enough space, certainly on the same level inside, so it would have to go somewhere that is in the basement. It's not our purview to look at how things are done in the basement and storage, but if we're now talking about a significant increase in people, that's a significant increase in food as well as trash and everything else that has to be somehow taken care of, because I don't think it's going to be in that entryway. The stormwater management has an issue that I was going to bring up, but I defer to the people that know much more about it than I. I don't know to what extent it is a major issue, but it could be under the current procedures for doing a site plan review. Those are my comments. I don't have anything else to say.
thank you. Mr. Wirtschafter.
Yeah, I just have, I'm not sure when you were going through where the generator is. Can you just show us again where that generator is with this new pink? It's right there?
Yes. That's where the existing generator is now.
Okay, all right.
We're not proposing to move that.
All right, that's fine, then I don't have an issue with that. I would just say that this seems to be a perfect case for the Squire being the lead promoter of a shuttle service for parking, that if you were to jump aboard, you would certainly get my vote for the extra spaces. So I'm just encouraging you to not be like the rest of the downtown area, fighting against the shuttles. And if you were a lead supporter, offering some incentives perhaps for people who parked remotely and got $1 off a drink, I certainly would be willing to start working on some of these other guys as to relieving some of the parking issues. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Bob. Megan Story.
Parking issues aside, because I think we can all recognize that that is an issue. I have a couple concerns. I do agree with every other board member in that, shutting off areas and opening up areas is, I don't think it's feasible. We wouldn't give you 10 bedrooms if you were only allowed 3 just because you said you were only gonna use a few of them at a time. That's not, it just doesn't seem logical to me that you would be able to do that, especially since I've been in the Squire, more than my fair share of days when it's been probably over capacity. And I'm not talking about the new owners, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying, it doesn't really work like that. So that would be my biggest concern. And then I also have a concern with the layout of the back and the sort of, I forget what you're calling it, but the stools that are up against the back bar, the 2 tops that are across from them. I know that in your pictures, it looks like a much wider area than it does in real life. And I'm a little concerned about the accessibility issue, because if you're gonna try and take people who require accessibility in and out that entrance with people on those stools, and I mean, I'm one that sits on the edge of my chair, my stool's always hanging out from underneath me, like, I just think that that is not necessarily the best use of your accessible entrance. Looks a little crowded, but again, I might be able to be convinced otherwise if there is some sort of mediation plan there. But I do have issues with the parking. I do have sort of it would be a game ender for me if you're telling me that you're not gonna change your occupancy at all and that you're just gonna shift it around, because I eat and live in this town. And I also think the lighting plan is critical. I agree with my previous board member.
Great. Yes. Good, thank you. And Mr. Dubus?
Thank you. I noticed that 3.8 is the narrowest point for the accessibility for a wheelchair, which I believe is okay. But, and I will say, don't get me wrong now, I will say that the drawings show a very pleasing atmosphere. I am seeing 50 more people that are going to be placed in that restaurant bar. Now, on a good night, there must be at least 75 or 80 standing people in the bar. I see all 3 places are open, plus the dining room. There's a couple of places to stand there. So you can't tell us that you're not going to go over the 307 people. I do like the idea. I will give you credit on that. And I think that a shuttle to the Eldridge Garage would be exceptionally pointing towards us to change our mind a little bit on it. But right now, I'm sure they reach 300 plus on a good night without the outside parking. I mean, the outside seating. So adding 50 more people, and I'm sure that you could fit 60 or 70 standing up and around there, because once they go out there, some are going to smoke cigarettes and some are going to hang around the tables and wait to get in. So you can't pull the wool over our eyes that it's not going to be overcrowded. And shutting places off, I'm looking that if you shut the back bar off, the service window closes. So who's going to where are they going to go to get drinks then? They're going to go all the way up to the bar and all the way back, which is going to be crowded. My personal gut feeling is no, but if you can come up with some answers, I am swayed. My personal view doesn't necessarily count in being on the planning board. What counts is the letter of the law, and you're bending the law by the parking. We've given you so much already because it is an icon, because everybody knows the Squire. It is a nice place to go. I have not been there since the new owners took it over. I am kind of biased on that, but I won't let that deter my vote. So I would say if you could come up with a shuttle in the summertime, and maybe leave it off in the winter, but if you could come up with a shuttle in the summertime, say July and August, and we'll give you the shoulder, that would be an exceptionally well opportune time to show people and to to get what you are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make a few comments. This is a pre-application conference, so the purpose of this conference is to let the applicant know what the board needs to see at your formal site plan review. At the moment, our files do not show an official waiver of parking. Previously, it's very possible because the Squire's been in existence for so long, but the board actually would need to do a formal waiver of the parking requirements, and we need to base those parking requirements, as Art has mentioned and other board members have mentioned, we need to base that on the bylaw, what is required by the bylaw, and that's according to number of seats, and that would be the total number of seats inside and outside. And so right now you're looking at we have to formally waive that. And so you'll need to present something to the board that can allow us to comfortably give that waiver. I agree with my friends and colleagues that the idea of closing off sections inside to accommodate occupancy outside is likely impractical as well as perhaps unenforceable. And to be honest with you, just knowing how business works in the high season, it would be difficult to imagine that the managers would have an incentive of closing off the indoor seats when the outdoor was full, because it's at the height of business. So it's a difficult, I think the board members have expressed the opinion that this is a difficult solution to adopt. We do need to see drainage, some accommodation for the requirements for drainage. I'm just going to remind the applicant that, for example, on the staff report is a summary of the site plan review requirements. And I've gone through all of those. And at the moment, the only two that are satisfied in some way are, let's see, number 8, in the case of an apartment complex, adequacy of usable open space for play areas, that's not applicable, so that doesn't matter. And then location, arrangement, size, design, and general site compatibility of buildings. The Squire is an icon in Chatham, so certainly it is compatible with the neighborhood. I do agree with what board members have brought up about the lighting plan. The lights you show us are attractive, but they don't meet our requirements. So, and please look through all of the other requirements of our site plan review process, and we do need to see that all of those requirements are satisfied. So, with that being said, yes, Mr. Dukas.
Madam Chairman, I just want to reiterate what you were talking about also, is that the on-site water should be taken care of. You will have a very difficult time putting or persuading the water to leave the area. The grades are very, very tight there, so I hope that you have a good time in planning for that. But we do require the downspouts be taken care of.
Yeah.
And we do require some kind of drainage for the parking lot and the walkway. Thank you.
Great. And also, we do require, we get referrals from other departments, from health department, from fire department. We'll need to have all those referrals come in at the formal site plan review. And right now, it has been mentioned by the health department that there's an issue with pest control. So we need to see that that the requirements of other town departments are taken care of. We do need to review that as part of our formal site plan review. Is there anything else from any other board members that we need to let the applicant know that we need to see for the formal? All right, great.
Madam Chair, may I now have the opportunity to answer
Yes.
these points?
Yes, you may. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. That's a lot. That's an
Yes.
awful lot that you folks unpacked. But, so firstly, with respect to site, basically stormwater management, we did have, and I know you received this in your packet today, we did have our engineering team take a look at the stormwater impact. The fact, as one of the board members, and I forget which gentleman mentioned it, the fact that it is all currently impervious, we are not intending to change that dramatically. I dare to say that we are introducing some new non-pervious space, but I won't devalue the board by bringing that to light any further than that. I don't believe, because we are an existing space, I don't believe we're required to do stormwater management.
Excuse me, if I may interject.
I really didn't interrupt, Madam Chair, excuse me. I
Okay.
didn't interrupt anybody, so if I could ask the same, please. That said, I know that this client, this owner team is very serious about having this place work for everybody. Not the least which them. I'm certain that when it comes time for our site plan review, that we will have an answer to the stormwater management question. We are not expanding our space. As much as everybody would like to think that we are, we're not. Everybody thinks that we're expanding our occupancy. We're not. It is our proposal, and this is not a nefarious proposal. This is truth. If we are approved, and when I read through Town's report, it was actually a surprise to me and a surprise to our ownership team that we are not hampered by the 232 individuals. We are approved for 307. So let me explain one thing, or I should say address, excuse me. If we are experiencing 50 individuals out here that we are proposing, and to the gentleman that mentions about if there's a seat, there's a person, that may be so. We're limited to 120 in the dining room, to 112 in the tavern. Even if you add the 50 outside, as Madam Chair, you even pointed out, we're only at 272. And if we are allowed an occupancy of 307, we are now 35, I can have 35 workers in this space and still be within compliance of health department. That's not the proposal. Yes, I've been in the Squire as well when it's been a number of people in here. But I do think that this new management team has a pretty sophisticated overview, if you will, that they can clear areas out. We need to give them the chance to prove themselves. They're coming with full disclosure of everything that they would like to do. With respect to the parking should be grandfathered in. This is the parking that is here. We are not increasing occupancy. We are not going for a change of use. So I don't see how we are triggering parking review. However, it's not to say that the owners wouldn't consider, but I don't think we have the ability, or the board has the ability, to make that conditional. The ownership team is looking to be a good neighbor to the town. The very fact that they're looking to improve the view here, I think stands merit there. As Ms. Story had mentioned, the accessible route, we have more than enough built in by code for accessible route. We're required, and I believe.
No problem, that was clarified.
Thank you so much. That's fine. So again, what we're proposing is improvement. The area that we're looking to fence off is already occupied by concrete patio. It's not parking. We are not taking parking away. We're only restriping the parking that's there. So here again, we are not adding on to the facility. We are just making another another gathering space. And again, everybody's talking about occupancy. We're not increasing the occupancy. So Madam Chair, I'm sorry, when you started off with raising those numbers, we weren't proposing that. But we're well within our right. We're well within our health department coverage. We are also well within our ability to evacuate this facility because I believe that we've made this a safer environment because this area here, and I'm going to bring my little pink square, this area is the rear egress of the entire restaurant. This path has been made better. We now have well-defined, well-lit egress portals. The lighting spillover that everybody is discussing, I don't agree with, for the simple fact that we are not introducing light that is going to spill anywhere with the exception of within the context, excuse me, of our seating area. This does not spill out to a residential area. This does not even spill out to the parking lot. I think the spillage of light has to do with the high-profile lighting that's in the public parking lot, which spills over into our space, which we'll take advantage of because that does help with our lighting controls. However, none of the lighting spill. I'm happy to provide a lighting plan with foot candles shown. That's easy. We're not proposing to increase anything that's more than what is currently there. Again, we are not changing this use. We're making an outdoor seating area. That's it. It's an area that arguably already exists.
Madam Chair, could I jump in with just
Yes,
a point of order?
Please go ahead, Ms.
So I think it's important to clarify the difference between occupancy relative to the building code and fire code versus occupancy based on the sewer flow that you have approved for the property. So I think
I
the
agree.
applicant should present that to the board at a future meeting. And I also wanted to just jump in and offer a meeting with staff to talk through the list of issues that the board has talked out. This process is a two-step process. This is the first step, a pre-application. If you choose to submit a formal, we can have a follow-up meeting to work with you and talk through these issues that the board has raised tonight.
Great.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that as well. Can I just, I'm sorry, I just need to touch upon a couple other bullet points because I would love the board to go.
You may, Mr. Fournier, this is Catherine Halpern, the chair, but I just want to remind you, as Ms. Christenberry is pointing out, this is a two-step process. This is a pre-application meeting. The purpose of this meeting is for the planning board to let you know what the board requires at the formal site plan review. And in some sense, to answer the questions or to rebut the questions and concerns at this point is not really fruitful. I think the board has...
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I respectfully disagree with that because while I appreciate all of the knowledge that we're garnering from this meeting, I think it would help not only your I don't want to say understanding because that seems negative, but your understanding of our proposal, what we're proposing to do with this, in leading up to our second meeting. I've often found that if boards go away with a certain taste, it's very difficult to get that taste back in a follow-up meeting. So again, I would ask just another few moments just to answer through some of these points that came through.
I'm going to have to say that this is not, again, the purpose of the pre-application conference is for the planning board to inform you what we need to see at the formal site plan review. Ms. Christenberry has reminded you of that and has also offered that in the meanwhile, there will be a meeting with staff to review the requests of the planning board for the formal site plan review. So again, I don't I don't think that's particularly fruitful. I do want to say that we do not have for example, this whole issue of the grandfathering in of the parking, we do not have a previous waiver on file. So in some sense, it's not grandfathered. Our practice as a board is that whenever anything comes before the board, we do a full site plan review, which means that if information is not in the file, such as full drainage, anything covering the drainage that we need, parking waivers, etc., that we need to take care of it at this time. So the board does exercise a full site plan review for anything that comes before us. I think the board, I think every board member has reiterated that we do consider that this is an increase in the seating. We need to go with the bylaw and see that the parking requirements are met or grant a formal waiver for the parking. And I think Ms. Christenberry has said that you will have the opportunity to meet with staff to review the requests of the planning board for your formal. So with that being said, I think we probably should close this matter if that's convenient for the board. And also we had planned to recess at 6:15 and take a 15-minute break before our public information session, which is to start at 6:30. So I think we'll adjourn temporarily. I should say take a break temporarily. We should reconvene. We'll take a little bit of a shorter break, if that's all right, and let's just reconvene at 6:30 for the public information session on the proposed bylaw amendments for the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. Thank you. So we should shut off our microphones. We'll be off the air. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. We've had a brief break. Again, this is the February 13th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. I'm Catherine Halpern, Chair of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham, and we will now begin our public information and listening session regarding the 3 articles, proposed zoning bylaw amendments that pertain to the West Chatham Neighborhood Center and the R20 district. There are 3 separate articles, and our principal planner, Ryan Christenberry, will give us some details on those in just a moment. I did just want to review the format for tonight's listening session. The purpose of tonight's session is just what we've said. It's a listening session. The planning board wants to hear from you, hear from the public, any input that you'd like to give us about these 3 proposed articles. And I will do my best to call on those present here in the audience as well as those online in the order that you raise your hands. What I may do is alternate someone in person who would like to speak with someone online and try to give you all to call on everyone who would like to speak. Out of courtesy for everyone who's joined either online or in person, could you limit your comments to 3 minutes? And then we'll go to the next speaker. And also just a reminder that comments should be regarding the 3 proposed articles regarding the West Chatham Neighborhood Center and the R20 district. These do include footnotes that pertain to land use issues, compatible land uses for the RPZ or the runway protection zone. Again, if you could restrict your comments to compatible land uses for the runway protection zone, any other comments regarding airport issues, the planning board has no purview over, so I will need to ask you to exclude those comments from tonight's meeting. Again, we'll just be listening. At the end, I'll make a few points about some open issues from the planning board side, and also just a reminder that how our process will be is that we'll look at we've scheduled the public hearing for this matter for February 27th, and we'll look at a summary of the comments from the public that have come before us. At that time, the board will consider your comments, but tonight is just a listening session. So with that, I'd like to ask our principal planner, Ryan Christenberry, to just give a brief overview of the 3 separate articles, and then we'll begin to take public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a little process overview to get us started. At the January 23rd meeting, the Planning Board voted to refer these proposed zoning bylaw amendments to the Select Board to initiate the public hearing process. The Select Board referred those back. We have included this public information and listening session just as an additional opportunity for the public to weigh in. But again, the formal public hearing to deliberate by the board on these articles is February 27th. The 3 articles all deal with the West Chatham Neighborhood Center proposed district, which would be a new district in the zoning bylaw. And there would be an additional article to amend the zoning map to delineate that district. And then a 3rd article to amend the R20 schedule of use regulations with footnotes relative to the RPZ. And those same footnotes would appear in the West Chatham zoning for those land uses as well. I think perhaps we would like to start by inviting comment on the West Chatham Neighborhood Center District first, and then if speakers or interested persons want to talk about one or all of the articles, I would think that that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. And I did see a gentleman with your hand raised in the back. Did you have your hand raised? Could you come to the mic on this side and please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Tom Wilson, and before we started the comment section, I had a question about the structure for tonight's meeting. You seem to be saying that speaking about an RPZ is not kosher for tonight, because what we're talking...
Excuse me,
Yes.
if I could just clarify that. I was very specific. there are footnotes in the proposed bylaw amendments that structure compatible land uses within the RPZ as it appears in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center and to the north in the R20 district. We need to restrict our comments to the compatible land uses that are addressed in the footnotes in the proposed bylaw amendments in the RPZ. I hope that clarifies it.
It really doesn't. Because I think part of the charge here is public safety, and I would like to talk on public safety.
The footnotes that are included address the issue of public safety. That's the purpose of the footnotes. Please go ahead, Ryan.
Just an additional comment, there was a meeting with the planning board representatives and the airport commission. I believe you were in attendance of that. And the proposed footnotes were to the satisfaction of the airport commission relative to what the board is intending to propose for the West Chatham Neighborhood Center.
So we're here tonight for a listening session for the residents and town people to let the planning board know how we feel about the footnotes. So I'd like to take my 3 minutes and just do that. I'm here to strongly oppose those footnotes. I think they grew out of some conflicting and very unclear information. And I think any zoning update should be fact-based and data-driven, and these footnotes are not. We need to realize that what the FAA calls a runway protection zone is really supposed to be open space at the end of the runway in case a plane comes in short or goes over when it's taking off. It's supposed to be clear. It's supposed to be a place that, if there's a crash, risks to the public and property on the ground are minimized. That isn't the case here in Chatham. Here in Chatham, we're in a danger zone every time we drive on Route 28 to come into town or leave town. When I read what the objectives are of the West Chatham Neighborhood Center, and that you want to encourage pedestrian access and multimodal transportation and so forth, you are bringing people into a danger zone. A zone where the FAA says there should be no structures, there should be no people, there should be no roadways, there should be no vehicles. That's what they say, and yet on one end, we have all those things, and on the other end, we have a residential neighborhood and the second most active road to get into town, Old Queen Anne Road. We're about to implement footnotes that would permanently mark those properties on Agnes Lane as RPZ properties. How is that going to affect those properties as they look to resell? How is it going to affect their homeowners insurance? Have we, the planning board, the zoning board, taken the time to look at all the alternatives that could exist on other ways to solve this problem? Those people who bought properties on Agnes Lane or on Old Queen Anne Road that are in a runway protection zone, did they know that when they bought the property? And is it right and just for us to put a marker on them that may diminish their property? Is it right that we're putting limitations on what they can and can't do? I don't know that we, this community, this planning board, this town, has taken the time to research what the alternatives are in terms of public safety, what the alternatives are in terms of homes in a danger zone, roadways in a danger zone. The main access to our town, where we send our school buses, our ambulances, every pedestrian, every vehicle, every delivery truck, is in a danger zone that the FAA says it shouldn't be there. I don't know that we've taken the time to research how could we solve this in another way other than footnotes. So I'm hoping that you don't include these in the amendment that is going to go on the warrant, because I don't think it's ready. I don't think we've done the research. I don't think we understand the problem and the possible solutions. I really appreciate your time tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you very much. And I truly admire the work and the effort everyone on this board puts in. It's amazing how much time and dedication it takes. And I do want to say that I strongly support affordable, attainable housing in West Chatham. I think increased density, I think limiting single-family homes are all good things, but I can't support this overall amendment if these footnotes are in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And I think I wanted to alternate and see if there's anyone online who has their hand raised and who would like to speak and make comment. Anyone from the public? Annie, do you see anyone online? Rick Levitt. So let's have Mr. Levitt speak, and then I'll take someone from the audience.
If I could just ask, you're talking greatly to the microphone, but if others
Thank you, Catherine.
get closer to the microphone?
All right, just a
Rick Levitt.
reminder that we need to be close to our mic so everyone can hear, but Mr. Levitt, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Catherine. I'm Rick Levitt. My wife and I live in West Chatham, abutting the village center. Most of you know me as a longtime advocate for implementing the town's comprehensive plan to revitalize West Chatham Center. This zoning initiative is a major step in that direction. It overcomes the shortcomings of current zoning. The principal objective of this new code is to combine small-scale commercial and residential in moderate density in a traditional way. Chatham's original old village combined small-scale commercial and residential in moderate density. I want to focus your attention on the use table on page 15. One family dwelling should be allowed. Selectmen raised this issue at a recent meeting. Large single-family homes on large lots should not be allowed in compact village centers. But that should not exclude small one-family homes on small lots. Smaller homes on smaller lots are a tradition in the old village and should be allowed in West Chatham Village Center. Reducing lot size and home size are the principal means of reducing housing costs. Chatham needs rental apartments for those earning below AMI, but we also want to encourage home ownership for households earning up to 200% of AMI. A pressing housing need in Chatham. Recently, Housing Assistance Corporation has been advertising on the radio the missing middle housing concept, a variety of traditional housing types, including small homes on small lots. I sent you a link to HAC's website and missing middle page. The concept is being considered by Orleans for repurposing the Governor Prince Motel today. Two excellent examples of recently built small homes on small lots can be seen at Brewster Landing and Maritime Landing on Route 6A in historic Brewster and Dennis Village centers. The missing middle concept was presented by the Cape Cod Commission to other towns on the Cape. I urge you to adopt the missing middle housing concept and modify the use table to allow small one-family homes on small lots. Finally, and importantly, I suggest that you remove the RPZ footnotes and offer them separately as a standalone warrant article, as you have done for Agnes Lane. Otherwise, we risk losing support of voters who believe the conflict between the airport and the town's comprehensive plan can be resolved without compromising West Chatham Village Center revitalization and without compromising the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levitt. Yes, please go ahead. Please introduce yourself and speak into the mic.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is James Fulton. I live on Lakeshore Drive in Chatham. I'm holding in my hand a copy of Appendix 1, Schedule of Use Regulations, your footnotes, if you will. I've been a municipal lawyer for 45 years. Not here, but in the state of Connecticut. And before retiring here in 2019, for over 40 years, I counseled municipal clients in the art of litigation avoidance. And I'm opposed to these footnotes because you're going to get the town sued, big time. These footnotes restrict development rights. And the United States Supreme Court has held time and time again that when you take a piece of land and you say that a portion of it cannot be developed, you can't even put a doghouse on it, that constitutes a regulatory taking. In 2017, Justice Anthony Kennedy, in the New York case, said, in the case now before the court, petitioners contend that governmental entities took their property, eminent domain, took their property, not by some physical occupation, but instead by enacting burdensome regulations that forbid its improvement. And Massachusetts, the United States District Court in Massachusetts recognizes the concept of a partial taking. So you say, well, there's a lot there, and all we're saying is that piece that's in the RPZ, that's what can't be developed. Well, that's what the homeowner or the property owner is likely to consider a partial taking. And you can confer with your town council about this, as I had people confer with me over the years. And all that a lawyer can do is tell you whether you're likely to win or lose a lawsuit. He can't tell you whether you're likely to be sued. And all a property owner here needs to do is go to a lawyer, engage them on a contingent fee basis, and say, look, they've devalued my property through a regulatory taking. I'll pay you 1/3 of whatever you recover from me. And I remember the evening that Shireen Davis and the select board told us that the skydiving lawsuit cost the town $132,000 in legal fees. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. The number of lawsuits, contingent fee lawsuits, out there by people who are not going to be happy that their development rights have been prohibited, will likely sue the town. And I live in this town, and I'm a taxpayer in this town, and I don't want to be sued. And so there are many good things and much good work that has been done in the revitalization of West Chatham idea. The footnotes that restrict development, I don't think are part of the good work. And I hope very much you won't proceed with those. I appreciate your sensitivity to dangers that are in the RPZs. Those RPZs never should have been developed. They're dangerous. I appreciate that sensitivity. But there are other ways to deal with that problem besides doing something that gets the town sued with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. This is a listening session. So I'll refrain from giving you a full response, but I will just mention that we have pursued this issue of regulatory takings quite extensively with our town council and also with the specialist, the legal counsel to the Airport Commission, who specializes in aviation law vis-a-vis the requirements of the FAA and other types of takings that the FAA is entitled to. But we'll be able to respond more completely to your concerns during the public hearing, and I thank you so much for your input. So now let's see if there's anyone who has joined us online who would like to comment. Yes, thank you so much. Could you introduce yourself, please? Yes.
I don't know if.
Oh, it's Elaine. Please go ahead,
Yeah.
Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you. I was just going to reference what you said. 2 years ago, town council was here talking to you folks and made it crystal clear that regardless of whether or not the planning board took action to codify it, that the FAA controls and within the RPZ in terms of development. The fact that we were negligent or uneducated in the past, we have to live with what's there, but it's immaterial today that you can't build within the RPZ. You can't increase density. I'm only going to ask one question regarding comments that were made at the last meeting, where when I asked about, prohibited uses in terms of, a change of use. And one of the things that I was brought up was the Dover decision, which said that religious congregations such as churches are exempt. And I don't believe that to be the case. I can't imagine, and I was wondering if any further research was done, because the FAA, in my view, and I believe in the FAA's view, trumps that. The last thing they would want is a church where people assemble within the runway protection zone. So I think it's got to be really clear when you go forward that there are no such exemptions like that, that the grant assurances are a commitment that says we will not increase density within the RPZ in terms of human activity, and that would include a church. So I don't know if any discussions or any further research on that Dover decision has been looked into. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I think not at this time, but we will, again, as I've mentioned, at the public hearing, we'll review a summary of all of the public comments that have come in tonight, and we'll have some responses, and more discussion will be possible at the public hearing. But thank you, Elaine. Is there someone in the audience who's present here who would like to speak? Again, I just said I would alternate between those connected online and those who are present here. I don't see any hands. Are there any hands raised for people connected online? Anyone who would like to speak and offer public comment on the 3 articles? Yes, I see Mr. Wilson's hand up again. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom Wilson, West Chatham. A couple of things. First, it is a very small turnout tonight. It is February. It is when a lot of people are out of town. The notice for this listening session was put in Thursday's newspaper, and today is Monday at 6:30 at night. We have very few people zooming into this, and we have 8 or 9 people in the audience here. I think these issues deserve more of a hearing than this one listening session, and I think the short window between notification and the actual listening session may have something to do with that. That would be my first comment. My second comment is, I spoke last week at the Airport Commission meeting when the chair was present and one other member of the planning board was present, where they reviewed the footnote articles. And the comment was made by the chairman of the Airport Commission, who said, "We, the Airport Commission," quote, "cannot control the land around the airport. That's up to planning board and zoning board." So even though we have land like Ocean State Job Lot or Agnes Lane that are in runway protection zones, we have not given up, I don't believe. And that's part of the issue. There are lots of questions about runway protection zones that haven't got answered. And I think we need to answer them. But I don't believe we've given up all our control over those lands. I think if changes were proposed, they would have to be reviewed by the FAA, but I think it might be within the realm of planning board activity to look at possible changes. And so one of the suggestions I made to the Airport Commission was that they approach the FAA about running an RPZ workshop that's open to the public, where we could ask questions about being in an RPZ. Who has control of it? What if we want to change? Those kind of things. The other serious thing that came up at last Wednesday's meeting was a question by one of the airport commissioners who says, what happens if the RPZ grows, expands? And I came back and commented, that would affect me and my property. And are we about to put footnotes in place that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now may extend and involve other properties? I think we have lots of questions here that need answers before we put articles on the warrant for the town to vote on. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. So again, I'll ask, are there any hands raised from participants online?
Yes, Gloria Freeman.
Okay, Gloria Freeman, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I agree with the previous speaker. Notice of this meeting was poorly advertised. Quite honestly, I thought tonight was a listening session and the public was the listener, because I haven't heard a complete description of what is being proposed. I've been at almost every meeting. I've been listening, but it's been bits and pieces, and I haven't seen a full presentation. And I think that's what, I think that it needs to be a well-advertised meeting. I think we need to have a full explanation of what the planning board is doing. And so that's my comment. I hope that we'll take a step back. I know you have a schedule, but I was away for the weekend. I didn't even know about this until I got home late last night. So thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Any other comments from the public? Anyone present who would like to make a comment? I do see another hand raised online, but I can't see the initials. Annie, can you see them?
Carolyn McClellan.
Yes. Please go ahead. Carolyn?
Hello, thank you. I just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. I know it's a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I know no matter what you do, I mean, it's a very complicated situation and not everyone's going to be happy, but I'm really excited at the fact that we're making strides and we're putting the sustainability of our year-round local community, our year-round community at the front of trying to project what the best solution will be for our community, because after everything is said and done in a generation or two, if we don't take big steps now, there won't be a year-round community here. So thank you very much. I know it's complicated. I know we haven't worked everything out, but please keep moving in that direction, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone here present who would like to add further comments? Anyone online?
Madam Chair, could I just offer
Please
up
go
a
ahead.
comment?
Yes.
For the public listening in person and at home, I do want to just clarify that the public hearing for these articles is scheduled for February 27th. That has been duly noticed, consistent with Mass General Law requirements for holding a public hearing, and there will be a more thorough staff presentation on each of the articles during that time.
Yes. And also the planning board at that time will respond we'll have a summary of the comments made tonight and any other comments that we receive by email. You should submit comments to the Community Development Department, and the board will review those and respond to those at that time. Tonight, we just wanted to listen, so we haven't really responded. I'll just make a kind of blanket point that some of the issues that have been raised actually have been thoroughly reviewed by the board with town staff, with town council, in terms of reviewing the FAA recommendations. They're not regulations, they're recommendations from the FAA. And so the board has actually considered those things quite extensively, and at the public hearing on February 27th, we'll be able to go into those discussions more thoroughly and consider them and consider all the comments that were made tonight. There are also some open issues about these bylaws that the planning board is considering, and that's considering implementing restrictions or implementing some control so that we have a certain number of attainable and or affordable housing units, because we are allowing increased density in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. And also the board is very committed to encouraging year-round residency in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center and prohibiting seasonal occupancy. So those are two open issues that the board also needs to consider, along with your comments and any other comments that come up at the public hearing on February 27th. So I think if there's no further comments, I think we defer the remainder of this discussion to the public hearing on February 27th. And I want to thank everybody for your participation and for your comments tonight, and that the board will really carefully consider these. Okay, thank you. Before we close, just anyone else? And if not, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Move to adjourn.
May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
So let's do a vote. Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approved.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dupas.
Bob Dubus, approve.
And this is Catherine Halper, and I also approve that we adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you all for your participation. And again, a reminder that the public hearing on these matters is scheduled for February 27th. Thank you.